Alright, so here's the second part of this video. We don't have much left to cover, so just bear with me here. Looking at this next slide, it says find the equation for the line of symmetry for each parabola below, then draw the line of symmetry. So another word for axis of symmetry, which we saw before, is just the line of symmetry. It means the same thing, axis of symmetry or line of symmetry. So again, the axis of symmetry, the line of symmetry, is the line that if we drew it right through the vertex of our graph, it would cut our graph exactly into two pieces. So if I try to move this here, let's see if it'll move for me. It's not looking like it wants to move. Right, I can just draw a line here. Again, it's the line that cuts straight through the vertex. So if I just try to draw a straight line here, again, not very good, but that's okay. We get the idea. It would be that line right there. So we want to state the equation for that line. So again, since it is a vertical line, it's going to be x equals. It looks like here it goes through the x value of 1, 1, 2, x equals 2. Same thing for this one over here. Again, we're going to draw a line that goes straight through the vertex, which would be this line right here. Again, if we want to state the equation for this line, we'd say the equation is x equals, so like it goes to the x value of -3. So that's our axis of symmetry or our line of symmetry. Now we're going to do a little bit of review. It says state the domain and range for each graph. So hopefully you remember that we should be thinking how far left does our graph go and how far right. I want us to assume here that our parabolas have arrows on each end, meaning that they continue in each direction. So if we think about how far left this thing goes, it's just going to keep going and getting wider and wider and wider. Same thing with how far right it's going to go. So for domain, we're going to say all real numbers. If we just come over here and do the domain for this one, same idea. Right, looking how far left it goes, looks like it keeps going left forever. How far right does it go? Looks like it keeps going right forever, right? As it goes down, it's going to keep getting wider and wider and wider. Again, we're going to say the domain is R, all real numbers, so R with a little tail on it. For range now, however, range is talking about Y values. So instead of thinking left and right like we did with domain, with range, we remember we got to think up and down. So if I look at this first graph and I think about how high does it go, notice the arrows are on top, meaning that thing's going to go up forever. If I think about how low it goes, well, it looks like it comes down to right here, but it doesn't go down forever. It comes down all the way to the Y value of 3, right? This would be 3. So that means for my range, I would say y is everything above 3, so I'd say y is greater than 3. Right, and this is stuff we've done before. With range for this one, if we think about y values, how high and how low, for how high it goes, it looks like it goes all the way up to a y value of, it looks like it's -1 there. How low does it go? Well, it's got arrows on both ends, so it looks like it's going to go down forever. So it's everything below a y value of -1. So for range, we say y is less than or equal to -1. The nice thing about quadratic functions, you're going to see the domain. If they have arrows on each end, which they should, right? If we're graphing the whole quadratic, the domain should always be all real numbers, right? Left and right, it's going to go on forever. Range is always going to be y is greater than some value or y is less than or equal to some value. Looking at this one again, you might want to pause the video and try it out by yourself first, but it says which of the following is the equation for the axis of symmetry or that line of symmetry? Again, that's just going to be the line that cuts straight through our vertex. Oopsie, that arrow's not very good. Again, I would maybe take a minute to pause or 10 seconds to pause it, pick which one you think it's going to be. When we resume here, you should see that the axis of symmetry is x equal to 4. And it's a vertical line, and it's a line that cuts straight through the vertex and goes through the x value of 4. Always x equals to some number. If you thought, well, maybe it's d, well, y equal to 4 would be if we graphed it, that would be a horizontal line, which is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a vertical line. That's why it's x equal to 4. And finally, this is going to be our last slide for today. It says we will eventually solve quadratics. That's going to be kind of the second part of this unit. And we're going to do it algebraically. However, right now we're just going to do so by looking at our graph. And we're going to talk more about graphing in the next lesson for this week. It says recall, solving means we're finding solutions. So for instance, when we did equations before, if I asked you to solve the equation x plus 3 equals 4, right, you would find that x would equal 1, right? 1 plus 3 is 4. So that's the solution. The solution is the number or numbers that make the equation true. The solutions for a quadratic are where the graph crosses the x-axis. Another word for where the graph crosses the x-axis, you should know this from before, these are just our x-intercepts. Our x-intercepts are where our solutions are going to be to our quadratic if we try to find them graphically. Other words for solutions, sometimes I'll call them roots, sometimes I'll call them zeros. These all mean the same thing. They're just the x-intercepts of our quadratic function. Again, these are solutions, or sometimes we call them roots, or sometimes we call them zeros. Again, these three words, solutions, roots, and zeros, can be used interchangeably. So if we just look at these following graphs below here, it says how many solutions do the following graphs have and what are they? Well, if we look at the first one, if we look to see where it crosses the x-axis or touches the x-axis, it looks like it is right here, right at the vertex. So it only touches it at one point. So here we would just have one solution. So that's one option. You could potentially have one solution, and the solution to that quadratic is the point 0, 0, which is also the vertex. If we look at this middle one here, we notice it touches the x-axis at 2 points, meaning that we would have 2 solutions. So that's also a possibility. You could have 2 answers or 2 solutions, 2 roots, 2 zeros. And those 2 solutions, if we look at this first x-intercept, the first one is the point -2, 0. Another one is the point 1, 0. So those would be our 2 solutions. Again, just as a reminder for x-intercepts, and maybe I'll make this note up here. Remember, for x-intercepts, our y value is always 0. Y value is always 0 for our x-intercepts, which we see in all of our points so far. And finally, our third option for the number of solutions we have is seen in this last graph. If you notice here, this quadratic function, it never crosses the x-axis, meaning it has no x-intercepts, which would mean that it would have 0 solutions. There's no solutions to this graph. You can still graph it, obviously, since we see the graph, there's just 0 solutions because there's 0 x-intercepts. So again, just to recap, how many solutions can a quadratic have? It can either have one solution when it crosses the x-axis once, it could have 2 solutions when it crosses it twice, or it could have 0 solutions if it never crosses the x-axis. So this right here, this is the second video that you should have watched today. These 2 videos are our intro for quadratics, so just kind of seeing what they look like, and talking about some common vocab that we're going to be using. And the other lesson that you're going to see this week, we're actually going to start graphing. So now that you're done with both videos, again, you get points for watching the videos. You should log on to Delta Math, and there is an assignment. It's called Quadratic Assignment Number 1. And there's some questions for you to do. You must answer 10 questions correctly, and then you are done with the assignment. Please, again, if you have any questions, let me know at storantflip@gmail.com. Thank you and have a great day.